recording as of now. Go ahead.
Okay, welcome everybody. How's everybody tonight?
Very good, thank you.
Good, glad to hear
Doing
that.
fine, thanks, Rabbi.
Hopefully everybody's healthy, and I give you a blessing. You should be healthy for a long time.
Thank you.
It's the only meeting, Chris, that they get blessings, so it's good. Good.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rabbi.
Rabbi. I appreciate it.
Okay, agenda. Okay, as you know me, I like to go pretty quick, so let's try to get everything done without deleting anything, doing
Can
that.
anybody see the agenda? I'm sharing it with everybody.
Yes, we can.
And we
Okay.
stick to agenda items, and we stick to protocol, and hopefully we'll get you out of here before the football game starts, okay?
Yay.
Okay.
Sounds good to
Okay.
me.
Okay, very good. Agenda to committee members. There was minutes from May, June, and September. We're going to do it all in one shot, Chris. I'm going to ask a motion to approve those minutes. Second, do we have a second?
Hi, Deb. Christian.
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Any objections? Any abstentions? Any questions? Okay, move. Thank you so much. All the minutes have been accepted. Appreciate it. Okay, we go to street activity permit application. Look at page 2. This is the Boogie Down Bronx Bites Single Block Festival, which is planned for October 30th, 2021, from the hours of 12 to 5. And it's on Allerton Avenue between Holland and Wallace. I've been informed by the office that this is a renewal. So if the committee has any questions about this renewal,
This is not a renewal.
that's what I've been informed by the office. The office can respond.
Okay, are we supposed to have in the meeting the person in charge for this? And also we spoke with the assemblywoman. And she told us that this is the same one in a smaller scale. That's about it. Nothing has changed. It's anybody that representing Assemblywoman Fernandez present, please.
Yes, Assemblywoman Fernandez is representing me.
There you go. How are you, Assemblywoman?
Yes, this is the same event. It is smaller because given COVID restrictions and restraints and difficulty, getting participation, sponsorship, all that, it's the same intended Allerton Food Festival. The dates had to be moved back a couple times, so we landed on October 30th just with the availability of a lot of the sponsors, but it's the same Allerton Food Festival. I understand the confusion that, the title did say Boogie Down Bites. And we just wanted to spice it up a little bit different, given that it's going to be a little smaller. But every year we've had a festival in Allerton Avenue on a grander scale. This one will just be a little smaller, but we intend to have music, food vendors, trinket vendors, it's whatever items that we've sold before, contest as we did before. It's the same thing, just a little smaller.
Do we have any questions from the dear Assemblywoman, please?
And we are looking to get vegan vendors, yes.
But it's not under the same permit as the other ones.
Yes, it is. I have Jackie here who can specify the details, but she did speak with Sapo and they grandfathered it in, I believe.
Yes, we submitted a permit prior to COVID for renewal of the prior years. We were grandfathered. We were able to use the same permit number, but updated for 2021 as per Staples, City of New York.
Any other questions?
Well, just to say, because when we did originally tried planning this, it was supposed to be in August, but again, unknown, with the COVID status, we moved it to fall, now in October. So the title will be the Allerton Fall Food Festival. It's because it's in the fall and opposed to the summer that it usually is in.
Okay, final call for questions from committee. Final call. Okay, since this is a renewal, as described by the Assemblywoman, we do not, according to the office, have to vote, And I guess it will take place on October 30th on Arlington Avenue.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
more than
your
welcome to
time.
stay. I know you guys are busy. You said you have another meeting, so
Good seeing you all.
Yes.
Thank
thank
you
you
always
so
a
so
much.
pleasure.
And any further questions, everyone knows how to reach me. Happy to chat.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Natalie,
Be
good seeing
blessed.
you again,
Look,
Natalie.
make sure
Thank
you
you.
have some kosher hot dogs, okay?
Sabrets, right? Yeah. Do that.
Good seeing
Thank
you.
you, Assemblywoman. You be well.
Thank
Yes.
you. Yes.
Take
Have a
care.
great night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, now we move on to item 3. We are flying now. Okay, we are happy to welcome DOT, and DOT will identify themselves, and they are here to speak about the Pelham Parkway Bridge over the Hutchinson River Parkway. They will make their presentation. After presentation is made, we will take questions from committee, followed by questions taken from those assembled here. I now turn it over to the wonderful DOT.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Kalb, Deputy Borough Commissioner, Bronx DOT. I am joined by Teresa Cruz, our Senior Borough Planner. I'm also joined by Paul Schwartz, our Deputy Commissioner of Bridges. Janine Kidder, our Executive Director of Community Affairs and Chief of Staff to our Bridge Division. Oscar Robles, there he is. And I saw Mohammed Arain earlier, but I don't, oh, there he is, there. And Mohammed, who's with our Bridge Division. And we're going to turn this over to Janine Kidder, who's going to introduce a couple of folks who are on our bridge project. And they're going to give you a presentation on the, as you've already mentioned, Rabbi, the rehabilitation of Pelham Parkway over the Hutchinson River Parkway. Joe?
Thank you, Keith. While I'm doing that, I'm going to ask our consultants, can they please have permission to share the screen so they can put up the presentation for us to present it to you? If that's taken care of by the staff, we can get going. I'd like to just add to Keith's, first of all, thank you all for having us, but I would like to add to Keith's introduction. Also with us tonight is Sharif Islam. Sharif, say hello. He's part of Mohammed Arain's team here at Bridges, and he joined us tonight from our DOT team.
Got connected now.
Is there a way you can make a better connection? I can hardly hear you.
Yeah, it just went a little bit in a fizz.
Yeah,
It's back again. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Can you guys repeat again who's making the presentation? I apologize.
If you like, we can send it in an email, but I can also just repeat them. I apologize for the sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher, but some of us are still here at 55 Water Street at the DOT office, and we are required to wear our masks, regardless of whether there is other staff here with us in the building or not. So with us tonight is Deputy Commissioner Paul Schwartz and our Director of Bridges, Mohammed Arain. From his team is Sharif Islam. I'm Janine Kidder, the Executive Director of Community Affairs and Chief of Staff, and our deputy, my deputy for outreach, Oscar Robles. And that's our DOT team here with you tonight with Keith and Teresa Cruz, who you know well. If that's okay, if it's coming in clear, I'll continue.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you, Rabbi, for the blessing. That is the first time I've gotten a blessing, and it's the time of the day when we can sure use it. So thank you for that. Coming with us this evening, who will make the presentation, is our team from WSP, Mr. Peter Wall, who is the project manager. Also from WSP tonight is Stephanie Kamei. And probably the most important person to you on this presentation, Stephanie Brooks, who will wave at you. Stephanie is your community liaison coming from a company called FHI Studio. Peter will take it away, and as Rabbi said, take us through the presentation, and then we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. I did share the screen. I'm not sure whether all can see that.
We're up.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I will go through uh, um, uh, some information regarding the Pelham Parkway Bridge Rehabilitation Project. And by all means, if anybody have any questions or comments as we go along, please let me know. So bear with me a moment. Okay. So let's start off with the project location. Here on the west side, the left side of the screen, you can see an overview of where it is located in the Bronx, essentially in the east northeast portion of the Bronx. If you look over on the upper right-hand part of the screen, you see essentially the neighborhood, and I will get into that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. And similarly, if you look on the lower right hand of the screen, what's shown in the dashed line here, that is essentially the limits of the project. And here, of course, you can see the Pelham Parkway going east to west, left to right, and the Hutchinson River Parkway below going north-south, top and bottom. And then here, as you can see, is the Pelham Parkway Bridge. Now, zooming in on the project location, there are a number of different neighborhoods around the bridge. Of course, here in the dotted line, this is the location of the bridge itself. Here in the northwest are the Pelham Gardens. You've got the Pelham Bay Park just immediately northeast, I beg your pardon, southeast of the bridge. And then you've got the Morris Park area just here to the west of the bridge. And not noted here also, just immediately southwest of the bridge is the Public Safety Office. And adjacent to that, you've got the Mercy College. And then further over to the east here, you've got the Pelham Bay Park. And again, you've got the Pelham Parkway running east to west. You've got the Hutchinson River Parkway running north to south underneath the bridge. And you've got the Bruckner Expressway running north-south just to the east. So here I'd like to just go through a project overview. The purpose of the project is to address the observed deteriorating structural conditions of the bridge and bring the bridge into compliance with current standards. I'd just like to note that the observations, as it's phrased here, the deteriorating structural conditions, those are the bridge inspections that take place of the bridge biennially. Every 2 years, there are inspections that take place, and that is top to bottom. Bridge inspections, notes are made, photos are made, and any kind of concerns are addressed or noted. Now, going on, the objectives is to restore the bridge to a state of good repair. The bridge has deteriorated. I mean, it was constructed back in 1942. And the recent inspections have resulted or indicated that the bridge superstructure, that is essentially, the structure that supports the Pelham Parkway itself, is rated a 4, and the 4 category is a poor condition. And we will see photographs in a few minutes showing what really the poor conditions are. The substructure, which would include the 2 abutments and the central pier, they are rated a 5, which is categorized as fair condition. And again, you will see photographs of the substructure to indicate what it currently looks like. Okay, continuing on of the objectives, the design will include providing a minimum 75-year service life for the bridge. As I said before, the bridge was constructed in 1942, so it is getting up there in age, that's for sure. And then the other objective is to use cost-effective techniques to minimize life cycle costs. And there's a number of things you can do in designing a new bridge to minimize life cycle costs. In other words, trying to reduce those kind of things that need to be undertaken to repair the bridge due to rusting, damage, deterioration of concrete. There's a number of things that one can do to try and minimize structural deficiencies and minimize life cycle costs. A very good example of that is when you're using reinforcing bars in the bridge, you use stainless steel bars, or galvanized bars is another way of doing it. There are different ways to minimize the impacts due to weather and moisture and so forth. Now, with regard to challenges, the challenges are one of the greatest challenges, if not the greatest challenge, is to maintain traffic as much as possible. During construction, we will provide 2 lanes of traffic in each direction on the Pelham Parkway Bridge itself. And there will be complex staging requirements to maintain existing lanes of traffic on the Hutchinson Parkway during peak hours particularly. And these are the 2 primary challenges with respect to construction. And as the project does develop, and ultimately when the contract is awarded to a contractor, the contractors will have also proposals on what to do with respect to managing traffic. So with that, I'd like to do what I guess now we call a virtual site visit, since unfortunately we can't go out there at this time, certainly not at night. So I'd like to start off with a general plan. This is an aerial shot of the bridge. And here we have, of course, the Pelham Parkway westbound, the Pelham Parkway eastbound, and the Hutchinson River Parkway southbound. It's on the left, going diagonal in this view, and the Hutchinson River Parkway northbound. Now, this particular aerial shot was one that was taken many years ago, and subsequent to this aerial shot being taken, there has been some repaving that has taken place on the Pelham Parkway itself. The other thing on this particular aerial shot that you don't get a good view of, but we'll see this later on in some of the sketches, are the on and off ramps for the bridge. It's quite a few ramps there to connect all directions of the Pelham Parkway and the Hutchinson River Parkway. So here you can see the top of the bridge deck. This is a recent photograph that was taken. And here we're looking in an easterly direction. And you can see that it was recently paved and is, in this view, you can see it is in very good shape. That is the paving that you can see. What you cannot see, of course, is the condition of the structure that still exists underneath the pavement. Here's a similar view, but in this case, this is looking west. And here you can see in the top left corner of this particular picture, you can see the Public Safety Office. Here is an elevation of the bridge looking north and northwest. And you can see here what the bridge appearance is. And here, similarly, you have the elevation of the bridge looking southwest. Now here you can see here are a number of existing conditions that can be shown in these photographs. The most notable is the underside of the arch structure. And here you can see that there is some wire mesh, metal mesh, that has been attached to the underside of the arch. And that was really done to prevent any spalled concrete from falling and landing on the traffic below. But as you can see in the photograph on the top right, that had experienced some some substantial deterioration, and it rusted away. To be honest with you, I don't know whether that has now been repaired. I don't know what the current condition is. The bridge was inspected recently, but the inspection report has not been released at this time. Down at the bottom here, you can see the abutment and pier walls. You can see the center pier here, and note the spalling that the bridge has been subject to in recent years. Similarly, on one of the abutments, that's the abutment of span 1, the so-called beginning abutment, and here again you can see some spalling. You don't see in any of these images any of the water seeping through. It was dry conditions, but you may be able to see some of the staining that has taken place. We, of course, from recent inspections, have numerous other photographs, and in those you can see additional areas where it's clearly water staining, and even stalagmites, if that's the correct term. Here again, some existing conditions. Here you can see the roadway and sidewalks prior to the roadway repaving. And you can see there's quite a bit of work that has taken place to fill in the cracks. So you've got the median area. Also, you can see the curbs have been depressed or barely visible at this point. The north sidewalk toward the east end, there seems to be a bit of a little bit of a recess there in the sidewalk. And then here at the bottom, you can see the pavement conditions prior to the milling and repaving. And I didn't mention that before. The milling, of course, there'll be a few inches of the existing asphalt that's removed, and then it is repaved. So with that, we'll touch upon some of the alternatives that have been studied at this point in time in the project. Two rehabilitation alternatives. One is a major repair, and for that alternative, the existing bridge is retained, but major repairs, including reconstruction of the median joint and repairs to concrete, deterioration of the bridge, these are just some of the rehabilitation repairs that would be undertaken. There is another rehabilitation alternative, and that is one in which the entire superstructure or the concrete arch structure is replaced with the new deck and superstructure. The abutments and pier, it says piers, but there's only one pier, would be retained, and those components of the structure, would be repaired. The loose spalling concrete would be removed and all patched. There'd be some electrical work that would be repaired. The lighting would be repaired. There's a lot of miscellaneous work that would be taken care of. As you probably saw on the elevation photographs, there is some repointing that is necessary between the existing rock fascia, and that's also some of the major rehabilitation work that would be taking place. Another alternative is a full bridge replacement, and this is where the entire bridge is replaced with a new bridge, in this case having the same width and the same length, and the same number of spans. So essentially it would replace the existing bridge, very similar to what is there. And this has been the selected alternative. So going into a little bit more detail regarding the selected or preferred alternative, it is the full bridge replacement, and the bridge would be replaced with a structure that meets the minimum design life of at least 75 years. It would be designed to the latest codes and standards, as well as the seismic requirements associated with designs of structures in this location. It would be a steel superstructure. This would allow for simpler and less frequent maintenance, and it would have less impacts to traffic in the future. as a result of that reduction in frequent maintenance. And here on this particular slide, you can see what this is, you know, a rough concept of what the bridge would look like. You would still have the fascia, rock fascia, and here you could see the arch structure. It would no longer be the concrete, it would be replaced by steel. And here is the plan view of the preferred alternative. Here you can see the limits of the structure here in this this rectangular type image here. That would essentially be the limits. The bridge itself is within this limit right here, and these would be approach pavement in this area. With that, we'll touch upon the maintenance and protection of traffic. That is essential during the bridge replacement. And here on this image, you can essentially see the existing traffic pattern. Now here in blue, you can see, of course, the Pelham Parkway, 3 lanes in each direction. Except within the bridge, you can see where you've got the on-ramps or off-ramps coming from the Hutchinson River Parkway. Here you can see those ramps actually extend onto the limits of the bridge itself. And we'll show a little bit more, but you can see here there's a sidewalk here way to the north, as well as sidewalk on the south side here. Now with this, this is referred to as stage 1. And here in stage 1, this is stage 1 with respect to the Pelham Parkway Bridge itself. This area in orange, these lanes would be closed, and within this area, the reconstruction of this side of the bridge would take place, and the traffic for the Pelham Parkway Bridge will be pulled to the south. So it's maintaining 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. Similarly, during what is referred to here as stage 2, the traffic would be the north side of the bridge structure would be reconstructed, and then traffic would then be shifted to the north, and the south side would be reconstructed. Now, the following few slides will show what happens to the traffic on the Hutchinson River Parkway. Now, when the piers are being, the center piers being reconstructed, the 2 lanes, one northbound and one southbound of the Hutchinson River Parkway will be closed, and the traffic will be maintained northbound 2 lanes and southbound 2 lanes as well. Similarly, when the abutments are being reconstructed, the traffic will shift toward the center lanes, maintaining 2 lanes of traffic at these times. Now, of course, the permits for the traffic patterns, the permits need to be obtained, approval needs to be obtained. This will be happening at a later stage of the project. And of course, once the contract is awarded, the contractor will propose the schemes and also get the approvals and the required permits. There will be times when the entire southbound or northbound lane is closed. There will be very limited times. They would be primarily during the weekends when traffic is minimal, and very possibly also in the evenings. Again, that is yet to be determined and confirmed. But you can see here on the left side of the screen where it's in orange, this traffic will be closed off here. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see where the traffic is ultimately diverted onto I-95, and then to the north, we'll get back onto the Hutchinson River Parkway. In this view here, it relates to the southbound closure. The Hutchinson River Parkway southbound and the on-off ramps, of course, would be closed off. And then the southbound traffic, again, would be diverted over to I-95. Now we'll touch upon the community. And there, of course, is community outreach with agencies and elected officials. Agency coordination will include the New York State DOT, the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, and of course the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, and any other elected officials and agencies that may be required to with whom to outreach. There will, of course, be community engagement. There will be web and print media and materials distributed. There'll be virtual and in-person meetings, probably very similar to what we're doing now. Pop-up events within neighborhoods to demonstrate and exhibit what is going on, to show the community what's happening, and also to answer questions if possible. There will also be similarly comment blog reporting. So there can be constant communication going on, community engagement, so that all the information related to the project is shared. And here you can see in the bottom, this is very typical examples of these community engagement that can and will take place. Now, with respect to schedule and budget for the project. So the beginning of the final design is anticipated to take place this upcoming January. Then the completed final design a year from this upcoming January, or January 2023. Then the project will be advertised for the contractors to bid. That'll take place in the spring of 2023. The anticipated construction start will then be the summer of 2023, and the anticipated construction completion would be the summer of 2027. Very possible that if a very highly qualified contractor is awarded the contract, it could even be completed sooner, but that is yet to be seen. Now, with respect to the budget, it is in the order of $50 million to $55 million, and it is 100% city-funded project. And just to speak for myself, it is an excellent project to be involved in, and I have the good fortune of being the project manager on this project, and I look forward to seeing it actually taking place and completing. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and any questions you have would be greatly appreciated.
So Peter, if you would go back to maybe to the first slide, a little bit, something
Sure.
to look at. And I think what we can do, if someone from the staff wants to identify the committee members and board members who would like to ask the questions, that'll help us keep track. And we can provide as much information as we can tonight. We just want to reinforce what Peter said. We're at the end of the preliminary design, and we'll be moving into final design very soon. So we have the opportunity to hear your issues and concerns and address them, to the extent possible.
Okay. Thank you. Great presentation.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so first we're going to take any questions from committee members. Any questions from committee members to ask of any of the staff?
Yes.
Okay, question number 1, go.
Could you tell us who's speaking, please?
Oh, this is Peter Wall. I am the.
No, Peter, the
Oh,
question.
beg your pardon. I'm sorry.
Who's asking the question?
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm a transportation committee member.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yes, I was wondering, what would be the difference if they did a total reconstruction like they're doing on the Hutch by exit? I know the old exit 12. I don't know what they got the new number now. It's like 5.5. But I know they're redoing the bridge over there. They totally demolished it and they're rebuilding it. Would it be even possible to do that with Pelham Parkway?
So Peter, if you would go back to one of the slides where you had the alternatives, and
Sure.
we can dig into this a little bit. I think what the consultant team has presented is essentially everything that would be included in a complete reconstruction, except for the what I always call as the non-engineer, the things you don't see below the ground.
Okay.
I believe, Peter, if you would confirm it, that at this point, we're saving substructure and we're doing superstructure.
At this point in time, the project is, the selected version is to replace the bridge in its entirety. So that would be the substructure and the superstructure.
Okay,
And
so
unfortunately-
then Debbie, yes, we are doing a complete reconstruction. Can you
So-
find that slide, Peter, with the alternatives?
So it is a complete
unfortunately-
demolition?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
That's fantastic. I think that's a great idea to do that. It brings up the integrity of the bridge.
I believe that's absolutely correct. Unfortunately, it shows that oh, I beg your pardon. Hold on. Now, maybe I can do it now. Share content.
Okay, maybe if we've addressed the question, unless
Okay.
there are other questions.
I'm very
about the
sorry. For some reason, I can no longer move the slides. It indicates that Christian Amato can annotate.
Can we share again the
I
control?
will stop sharing and I'll share it again.
I no longer have annotation capability, but that's interesting.
Okay.
I do have a question though. Is this proposal also being shown at CB10 in the Bronx?
Yes, it is. We
Great.
have an appointment with them as well.
Great, because I
We-
believe
we-
that this bridge is actually in their community board's boundary.
You are correct, Christian.
We're giving each board their own opportunity to review the presentation and share your comments. We have an
Thank you.
appointment with them next week.
Next week, do you happen to know which day?
I can take a look while we move on to the next question.
I can share the content now. So which slide would you like me to go to?
If for the moment, we can just wait till what the next question is. And I
Okay.
think Debbie was asking, I think it's next Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
The Municipal Services Committee of Board 10.
Okay, so my
Thank you.
question is, during this 4-year time period, will there be signs telling people to go to 95 and stay away from the hutch? And if indeed that's true, do you see that as a positive or as a negative?
Oh, that is absolutely a positive, and that is the standard procedures to undertake. There has to be, and it's really in accordance with codes and guidelines that they have to do that. So any qualified contractor who would be involved in this, and I'd like to think that virtually every contractor that does propose on this will have such experience, and certainly the selected contractor will have extensive experience in that kind of thing. And there will be signage applying to Pelham Parkway westbound, Pelham Parkway eastbound, and northbound and southbound on the Hutchinson River Parkway, and within designated limits of the project itself to address all those needs of those the traffic.
So
you think-
what?
I do hope that they do the signage, because when they had the entire hutch closed for the demolition over by exit 12, people they apparently did not know that the hutch was closed, and it was like total mayhem for 3 days. So yeah, so and that was actually numerous different weekends. but
Yeah.
like they would do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and there was no signage, and people, unless they found it on social media about the closure, they did not know about it.
Yeah.
So if I could just add to what Peter was saying, as part of the design requirements, our team will come up with what was known for many years as a maintenance and protection of traffic scheme that now is called work zone traffic control. This is a regional facility, and so there will be a regional plan for advanced notification throughout the larger Bronx area, but there'll also be local signage that will also direct during lane closures and specifically for the full closures. And when there are the full closures, we will be appealing to NYPD for the traffic agents. Some folks still think those traffic control agents still work for New York City DOT, but they are in fact employees of the police department. And so we work very closely with NYPD to provide them whenever we do have a full closure of the roadway.
Yeah, and if I could please just add here on this construction traffic pattern, here you can see when there's northbound closure, there will be signage here. If you look at the right side of the screen here, there'll be signage here to inform.
We don't see your screen.
Yeah,
oh, you don't see it.
Presentation is not up.
Oh, okay, let me try that again.
I mean, we may have to share the screen again.
Yeah.
Whether
Let's
that
see.
is oral, is that, there we
All
go.
right. Can you see it now?
There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
So here on the right side, you can see when the northbound Hutchinson River Parkway is closed, you can see here at the bottom right where the arrows peel off to go onto I-95, there most certainly will be traffic, signage there to inform the northbound Hutch drivers where to go. And I'm sure there'll be signage along the way as well to also inform them when they can get back onto the Hutch. Similarly, that'll take place on the work when it takes place on the southbound Hutchinson River Parkway. There'll be signage in the other direction, providing motorists with the information as to where they need to go and how to get back on. And you can see here on the south side again, there's a little bit more extensive traffic route, if you will, or turns that they will have to take to get back on. Again, all of this, when the final design drawings are prepared, these routes will be provided on the drawings. And the bidders will bid on that, and certainly after it's awarded, they can have their own planned methods of doing it, or they adopt what's there in the final design drawings or the contract drawings.
I guess no matter how you look at it, you're going to have to anticipate there will be some traffic increase because of the double usage of the I-95. Because once you would have passengers that would continue on Hutch,
yeah,
but now they won't continue on Hutch. They'll have to get off the Hutch and go into I-95. Correct?
Yes,
Oral,
that is correct.
you? I'm sorry, you didn't identify yourself?
I'm sorry. Yes, Oral
Okay.
Selkridge.
I'm trying to keep up with the notes.
No problem. Yes, Oral
Thank you.
Selkridge.
So, Rabbi, next question?
My next question is this work done totally during the day, or is there nighttime work on this too?
No, there will be work at night, and as noted on this slide, there will be some full weekend closures required. Those closures will require for the crane to be in place to do lifting out of bridge components and then lifting in of new components. And those will be full weekend closures that generally begin late on Friday, sometimes as late as 11 or later, and generally continue to 5 a.m. on Monday morning.
So that's going to affect the Summer of the Orchard Beach people.
Yes, and that is an item that will be discussed extensively with our OCMC, which is the division of DOT that grants construction permits. Our design team has undertaken a traffic study with traffic counts. The traffic counts inform how we can perform the work and what lane closures will be permitted. And so during the final design phase of the project, all of that will be further refined from where we are today. And we'll be coming back to you at least then, and then once more just prior to construction to again go through all of these work hours and closures with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
will there be some type of signage on the road saying that during the week ends, the highway will be closed, right?
Yes, and again, this won't be every single weekend. These will be occasional weekends as needed over the life of the entire contract, not continuous weekends. We generally are not given continuous weekends, even when we prefer them to prosecute the work. But we generally do not get 2 or 3 weekends together. We have holiday and special seasonal embargoes, for example, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Mother's Day, which is always one where there are severe restrictions. But there will be those restrictions included in when the contractor can perform the work.
So you're saying that it could be extensive? Why can't they do something like, remember when the MTA had that program that was accelerated to make sure that it was done at a quicker time? They made exemptions for them to work, to get the work done ahead of schedule and on
Again,
time.
we will, as Peter said, we will look to work with a contractor who may be able to recommend particular techniques to combine phases or accelerate the work. But again, we always have to balance the ability to complete the work with impacts to the community. We're very mindful of not creating, congestion in the community any above what we absolutely have to do by performing the work. There's no way that this work can be done with no impact to the community. We need to always make sure that's understood. But we do aim to try to minimize the impacts to the greatest extent possible.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the shorter the impact, like the less suffering it would be, like long suffering versus shorter suffering. I'd rather a
course.
shorter suffering versus a longer suffering.
Of course, but the
I
actual
think
work
we all
to
agree
be-
with that.
The
Yeah.
work to be performed also has to be performed in particular sequence. And some periods of time don't require the full closures while the contractor performs other tasks. So it isn't just that we could say, do all the full weekend closures at one time and get them over with. The manner of the work and the demolition and the work to be done, and then the excavation of the foundations, each piece of this has to be programmed in a way that permits the work to be completed in the proper sequence. And so that drives the schedule, and then out of that, we figure out what weekends we absolutely will need.
Oh, okay, great. Have you considered design build?
Our design build program, we're very proud of the fact that the state has permitted us to begin a design build program. At this time, this location was not included in the legislation for the design build program. We have several bridges in the program from the state legislation, but this is not one of those locations that was in the enabling legislation.
Yeah, 'cause that's too bad, because the design build can save you a lot of time, because the building, you know how it works, the design build. I'm an architect by trade, so I'm very familiar with the design build process. It's too bad. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, any question from the public?
Yes,
I have
yes, I have a question.
Okay,
This
please
way?
identify yourself. Please identify yourself when you're asking
I
questions.
was about to identify myself, just want to hold my space online. Roxanne Delgado, on behalf of
Thank
Friends
you,
Pelham.
Roxanne.
Thank you. On behalf of Friends Pelham Parkway, you stated that the money has already been allocated and it's going to be 100% city funded. I'm
Yes.
assuming that's by Department of Transportation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Is there any environmental friendly construction involved in this project?
I'm sorry, could you just say the question a little more slowly?
Sure. Is there, I'm sorry, is there any environmentally friendly construction involved in this project? Environmentally friendly.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what would fall into your definition of environmentally friendly.
The city has a definition of it, by the way, within the city guidelines.
I think Roxanne may mean sustainable
Well, it's on this
procedures.
website. It says environmentally friendly, or sometimes it's green friendly construction.
Probably it means sustainable procedures where where they will recycle material. They can recycle concrete, recycle various materials to reuse it to
And
have a less of an
non-toxic.
impact. Yes, and
Yeah.
non-toxic, low VOCs
Could I respond to that?
to better. Sure. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No,
It's my architecture. It's my
no,
architectural training
please.
jumping on board. I'm sorry.
No, please don't apologize. I mean, what you've said so far is excellent, and I greatly appreciate what you have to say. Now, with respect to sustainable, these considerations will take place at the next stage of the design. Right now, we're in the conceptual stage, if you will, where we're looking at the various alternatives that could be implemented. In January of the upcoming year, we'll start getting into the final design, and we'll look into those other measures that can take place with respect with what you were just mentioning, Roxanne. And we certainly want to minimize the impact to the surrounding trees and foliage and so forth. So that is something that is yet to be really looked into further.
Awesome. I really appreciate that you mentioned trees, because trees are one of the main priority for Friends of Pelham Parkway. We really don't have much trees as it is, and so trees are very minimize any impact on the existing trees. Any additional trees planted would be much appreciated. And I just like to say community outreach. Like, I don't want to revisit a bad experience, but there was barely any community outreach when it came out with the e-scooters. So I'm hoping this project will be different, where you actually address people who are directly impacted. I understand that you're mandated by city charter to go to community boards, but understand many board members don't even live in areas impacted by your projects or your proposals or your pilot programs. So it's very important that you speak to the residents, the neighbors, the people who use the area regarding these projects or proposals, because they will know firsthand and even provide you with suggestions that will actually minimize any negative, because we'll have impact, but to minimize the impact on the community. So I really would like you to keep that in mind and have a liaison when you start this project in 2023 to provide updates on a regular basis to all community residents. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roxanne. We
thank
do
you,
have
Roxanne.
we do have a very strong community outreach program in Bridges. Identified earlier, Stephanie Brooks is on the call tonight as part of our commitment to community outreach. And as I said, we do have a complete community outreach program planned. And I would just refer to the extensive community outreach program we did for the Westchester Avenue Bridge. We actually went into the Hutch Metro Center and had individual pop-up events at Mercy College, at the hotel, at the hospital, with the community boards, at the local schools. And we will develop a community outreach program very much like that. And we do actually appreciate the input from the community organizations as to who the stakeholders are. We have a base of information here at DOT, but the best connection we have to the community is you. And through our outreach program and back through the community board, we're happy to have, as early in the process as possible, every community organization, every block association, whatever size or structure of a community group is out there, we're happy to hear who they are and bring them into what we call our notification network, so that we can bring you in, during construction to every single thing that we're doing.
Thank you.
You
Great.
mentioned outreach to schools. There's literally a school that's in that slide that I'm looking at right now that you have not outreached to. I was wondering when you're going to outreach to there, because there's many handicapped individuals there.
We generally come to the community board first and go from there into the local stakeholders. We would likely begin the conversations with some of those stakeholders, whether that's a school or a religious institution or some other community facility, during final design, when we have more definite information to share with them. From my own experience, schools are very busy places, particularly schools with special populations. And they don't often have a lot of opportunity to engage with us early in the process. My own experience with most of them, they generally say, please come back and tell us when you know what you're doing, and we can, kind of walk through it at that point. But I am aware of the school there as well as some of the other special institutions in the area, and we will be working with them during final design.
Okay, I just brought that up because you mentioned that you went to Hutch Metro, to
Mhm.
Mercy and all of that, but I know you did not currently outreach to the particular handicapped schools in that
Right,
area.
right. If you can
Debbie,
get us some of the contact information from them through the community board, I'm happy to have it.
Debbie, Miss Kidder was talking about the previous project, the one in Westchester Square. Now, any other person from the public? Any questions?
Hi,
Yes.
I have a question. Or Mike, well, you can go.
Yes. I have 3 questions.
Introduce yourself.
Michael Cass.
Thank you, Michael.
So my first question is, you have all these slides for the construction traffic pattern, but there was no mention about how Greenway access will be maintained because, as you know, the Greenway uses this bridge. So in particular, when the south side of the bridge is closed for construction, will there be a safe path for the Greenway as well?
You probably are aware of the city council legislation from last year that requires us to provide the same facility that exists now during construction, as that's actually now city law, and all of our projects are required to incorporate that. And so during construction, whatever facility is there will be maintained.
Thank you. Question number 2 is, currently under the bridge, there is a sort of pedestrian path there. It's not well used, and you can see in the slide here that you have a bunch of pedestrian paths that have sort of faded away with time. But I would like to know is, will there be any provisions for pedestrian or cycling paths under the bridge?
I can't speak to that specifically at the moment. We will come back to you with specifics on that. Most of those paths have been identified as substandard features to be in that close proximity to an arterial roadway. So on many of these similar bridges to this, based upon the design guideline we have, which is the New York State Bridge Manual, if the sidewalk does not meet the code of the Bridge Design Manual, we cannot maintain it. But that is another element that we will be looking at in final design.
I see. And lastly, since replacing this bridge looks like it's going to be a long-term project, was there any consideration of expanding the scope a little to look at the on-ramps? Similar to how I-95, that interchange on Pelham Parkway is being done, the on-ramps are being reconfigured. Was there any thought of doing that here as well? Since the cloverleaf design is not really the safest.
I think it was Peter or someone else, Stephanie Kamei, who's also from WSP, may be able to speak to that. I think that was looked at in terms of the potential for a diamond interchange. And I think there were deficiencies, particularly in the topography and the horizontal alignment. We may not have the individual tonight to address that, but Stephanie or Peter, can you address that for Michael?
Well, I can say that that was something that was studied many, many years ago, from what I understand. And that was before the current project was released. So the current project is really exclusively for the work on the bridge, not for any of the ramps or on or off ramps. But I believe there was some work done many, many years ago related to that. But as you, of course, can see on the east side of the bridge, there's great restrictions to the space as opposed to the west side.
So Michael, what I'd like to do is ask the rest of the team, Mohammed Arain is on the team, and Sharif, who I introduced earlier, if they will help me look back for the information that Michael is addressing and see if we can find that information that we could share with you.
Oh, that would be very much appreciated.
I'll see what we can find. If it was several years ago, we may not be able to dig it out, but we'll give it a good effort.
I'll leave my email in the chat. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I have some questions. My name is Luke Zabados. I'm wondering if, first off, the slip lanes here on the southern side of the bridge for pedestrians and cyclists are very scary to manage. They come along, motorists will come around blind corners, and it's challenging to cross the highway without the, fear of getting struck by a driver. Is this project going to improve conditions for pedestrians and cyclists on the Greenway?
Mike, Peter, could you go back to the existing condition slides? Because I think the conditions that he's speaking of, pardon me, may be easier to view there. I think some of these,
This one may be the one you want to see, because here you can see, for instance, in the lower right-hand corner, there is that pathway. It crosses here where there could be some busy traffic, fast traffic, and it goes around a curve, of course, so that could be a concern. And then it goes over here onto the bridge, and unfortunately you can't see where they cross back over here to the west. And then similarly here, this doesn't seem to be a problem, but over to the east, I'm not sure exactly what the situation is. And similarly here, there would be a crossing here. So I'm sure there could be some measures taken to make sure that the traffic is aware that there are pedestrian crossings. And that again would be addressed during the final design stage, which begins in January.
I also wanted to offer, Keith may still be on the call from the Borough Commissioner's Office. I believe that our Transportation Management Division, the Bike Ped Group, has been looking at this for quite some time, and I think has instituted some of the small changes that have been made here. I don't know, Keith, if you have any more insight into this. We can take it back. All of our bridge projects are reviewed by our traffic operations and transportation planning and bike ped group. And I know that they have seen this preliminary design program so far. They'll be working with us further in final design, but I don't know, Keith or Teresa, if you have any other insights onto these issues.
As a driver and a pedestrian in that area, I know it's scary as a driver, and it's got to be even more scarier as a pedestrian. While they're doing this, isn't there some way that they can just change it from a cloverleaf to the diamond pattern? Because as a driver, I'm looking at when you're saying the Hutch North would be closed, and you're not even given much of a runway to get onto the highway. It's already bad enough there. So wouldn't it be better to do two projects at once, change the patterns to diamond and take away the clover leaves?
I think what the team had shared with us a few moments ago is that had been looked at in an earlier generation for this bridge project.
Probably 1980, when they took away one of the clover leaves onto the I-95, just a little bit further north of this picture.
So we're going to take a look and see if it is actually that old. I believe that this bridge was in our capital program since then. For several reasons, I'm not an engineer, so I can't speak to it. I think the diamond interchange was found to be one that couldn't be fitted in to the right-of-way of what we own as DOT, as well as having some pretty serious topographical challenges. But we're going to take a look and see what we have available about why that was deemed infeasible.
Thanks. I was wondering, you had directed the question about pedestrian improvements to the Borough Commissioner's Office. Are they still on the call to answer that question?
Hey, everybody. I am still on the call. I did not want to interrupt Debbie. We can take a look at that. I'm not aware of any plans at this time to make any upgrades right now to those crossings, but we can certainly take a look at that.
Got it. Thank you. Would appreciate it. I would urge the Bridges team to consider that request for maintaining and improving sidewalk access and pedestrian space under the bridge if possible. And my final point is on slide 8 of this presentation. If you could flip to that slide. You see on the left-hand side a nice green area strip. I'm wondering if it would be possible in the design of this bridge to include trees in that grassy area.
I believe that, well, first of all, we can't plant trees on a bridge structure. There's nowhere for the roots to go. So we won't be able to plant trees on the bridge itself. I believe that most of this green space gets to be removed because of the city's inability to maintain it. But we will certainly look at where trees can be brought into the project limits. You know, if we need to remove some, and I'm sure we will, there are always trees that are very close to our structures, especially these older structures. I'm sure there will be tree removals that will be required simply to perform the work and have the contractor get access for the demolition as well as the lifting in of the new steel. And we will be required to plant as many trees back within the project limits as possible. That tree planting determination also gets done in final design, and that is under the strict supervision of the Parks Department.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I ask you, Roxanne, who has to maintain the grass, DOT or Parks, that you like to remove?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm looking at our deputy commissioner for some guidance on that. I do believe that it falls within DOT because this is our structure. This is not a park bridge. But I don't believe that I have an answer for you today for certain, because Pelham Parkway is also a park facility.
Correct. That's the green space, yes.
Right.
Well, if you could clarify if it's a DOT or DPR responsibility to maintain the green space or the grass, because I don't think we should lose grass because someone's not doing their responsibility or their job.
Understand, it's not a question of not doing their job. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources to maintain a lot of the green spaces, and they are problematic. We do have a lot of, unfortunately, we have a lot of dumping, a lot of people, you know, discharging material from cars. We do have a severe graffiti problem citywide. But we'll take another look at these specific green spaces here and see what the plan is for them.
I understand illegal dumping don't happen whether there's grass or not, unfortunately. But thank you so much.
I will.
Any other questions from the public about these projects, please?
Okay, thank you, DOT, all the employees, all the presentations. Thank you for your time and effort, and we hope this is going to be one of the greatest success projects in the history of the Bronx.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. We want to thank everybody from the community who took their time to be with us tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving on the agenda. If DOT wants to hang around and listen about e-scooters, you're more than welcome to hear it.
And I will stop sharing, but thank you all.
Thank you,
Okay.
Peter. Have a good evening.
Thank
Our
you.
guest
Thank you. You too.
about e-scooters is John Patrick Leone from the e-scooter company, VO's East Coast Company Community Engagement Management. That is his title. Okay, thank you for joining us, sir. And I think I'm going to just give a little intro, and then I'm going to let you take it away. Okay, so the intro is we want to try to be positive about this. And we want to try to make this thing move forward. But obviously, there are some concerns. And committee could add to me if I forget any of them, but basically is number one, I think concern is safety. As these scooters are flying around on the sidewalks, we have elderly, handicapped, that just cannot get out of the way. And we are very concerned about this. We are concerned about kids that somehow, some way are getting on these scooters and driving around in the scooters. Some of these scooters are obviously left all over the place, and they are blocking driveways. They are actually cause some damage to people's cars because they fall backwards and hit the car. So that is a concern also. Last but not least is the speeds of these scooters. It seems that they're flying around pretty fast. And as I said, with them flying around pretty fast on a sidewalk, that is a scary situation. And if committee wants to add something to that about, again, these issues, we're not calling them problems. We're calling that issues because we hope these things can be resolved. Anybody from committee wants to add before Mr. John Patrick takes over? Okay, John Patrick, it is yours.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate the time to share with you a little bit more about what we're doing as a company, as one of the three scooters companies that are in the pilot program in your area of the Bronx. Just to also acknowledge my colleague, Carol Antunes, is also on the call. She's our partnerships manager as well. So we'll both be happy to answer your questions towards the end. I do have a very small presentation just to go over a few little things that we're doing regarding some of the issues that you've all mentioned on this call already, and some facts that may interest you as well. So let me see if I can share my screen. Apologies, I haven't used WebEx in a really long time. Let's see, let me see. Do not see it. Let's see. No one sees a PowerPoint, right? Share.
No.
There we go. Awesome.
There you go. Go ahead.
Does everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. So we will go from there. Okay, great. So, as I mentioned, we're just one of the three scooter companies that are in the Bronx. We are VO Ride. We were founded in 2017. We serve about 40 cities, including cities and college campuses. We're 100% electric and environmentally conscious. Of course, we run by battery power. We're committed also as part of that commitment. We're here to work with cities and communities to provide the highest quality service. And we've also from the start rejected gig money. So we are fully profitable, and we're very proud of all the accomplishments that our team has done. Just a little bit, we're across the country and with many college campuses as well within those realms. So that's super exciting for us. In terms of the scooters that are being deployed in New York City, just for your information, these are the two scooters that are deployed right now in the pilot program. The Cosmo, which I think is the one that you've most likely have seen throughout the city. So, I mean, throughout the pilot program area so far. It's our sit-down scooter. It has, you know, it's been widely popular with a lot of folks that we've been speaking to in the communities and surrounding areas. The one that we are launching in New York City shortly is the Astro 4, which is the standing scooter. Again, it comes with new technology such as the underneath on the bottom of the scooter, if it's turned over or flips over, the bottom will light up and say, "Please help me up." As well as a few safety nuggets that we will be announcing shortly regarding the Astro 4 that was in conjunction with feedback from communities such as the ones here in New York City. So right now you see the Cosmos. We do not have any stand-up scooters currently in the New York City market. So if you've seen any stand-up scooters, probably Bird or Lime. But if you've seen the sit-downs, those are most likely us. But we'll be introducing the Astro 4 in the near future, and announcements about some of the new other safety apparatuses that we'll be announcing with that shortly. The next thing is pretty much just to show you a little bit about how to start and end trips and parking rules. So here on the right-hand side, you'll see a little bit about what the area is being permitted by the DOT in phase 1 of this pilot program. The red areas are non-riding zones. As you can see, even within the pilot area, there are non-riding zones as well that are highlighted. And also slow zones, meaning slower speeds as well, are highlighted as well within the area. The Ps, as you can see coming down, are also parking corrals. Parking corrals, you've probably seen them, are the areas that the DOT painted a line or a box with scooter symbols, and those are meant for deploying and parking as well. So of course, all rides must start and end within an outlined zone, meaning this zone right here. If you do go out of the zone, the vehicle will start beeping, and after 30 seconds, it'll actually lock itself, and you would have to drag it back to the zone in order for it to be unlocked. Riders are encouraged to park in the designated corrals. However, this is a free floating system, which was announced by the DOT as part of the regulations for this pilot program. That means that riders can park outside of the corrals in furniture zones without worrying about finding docks or charging stations. What are furniture zones? The areas of the sidewalk that are closest to car parking. So as long as you're not blocking the middle of the sidewalk, but it's the very edge of the sidewalk, that is considered by the DOT as furniture zones. Proper parking means no parking at the fire hydrants, meters, parking spaces, no standing zones, streets, walkways, etc. Of course, part of our engagement with the communities and our riders and users is also trying to educate them on proper parking etiquette. For example, these are just one screenshot of a few of our parking etiquette handouts that we've been handing out to the community, pretty much saying exactly what I just mentioned already. Highly encouraging folks to park in designated parking corrals, and also not parking in and around entrance to sidewalks, etc. But as you can see in the image, going closer to those furniture zones that are permitted by DOT. So just a little bit about that. Of course, part of what we're doing is part of our commitment is also to continued engagement, which would mean, equitable access to riders without smartphones, banks, or credit cards. It's important to us to make this as accessible as possible for everyone, especially those who may not necessarily have access to internet at home or may not have access to a smartphone in their pocket. That also includes a commitment to multilingual communication through our website and engagement. It also includes a customer support service team that is 24/7 who's there to resolve community concerns and also user concerns, and working with community boards as yourself to make sure that we're promoting safe riding and responsible riding at the same time. As I mentioned to you already, part of this is our VO Access program. VO Access is a $5 a month membership for those who qualify that are in NYCHA, receives any type of city assistance, such as food stamps, etc. This is a plan for them. $5 a month, no unlocking fee. The first 30 minutes are always free, and then 20 cents after that as well. For those who are non-smartphone users, this is how you would sign up if you did not have a smartphone, pretty much calling our support team, using some kind of device, or sending a document to us that would fill out the required information with a 3 to 5 day turnaround, and then a text message to your ordinary phone. The other thing that we'd like to also mention is that rider education and safety is super important to us and to the DOT as part of this pilot program. It is a requirement that for your first 3 rides, you are mandated to do a safety training quiz. It is on the app. It would prompt you prior to getting on a ride. You must achieve a 100% safety score in order for you to unlock the ride. And for the first 3 rides, it is throttled at 8 miles per hour. So users can familiarize themselves with the service and vehicles and how it operates, etc. Just as an FYI as well, after you're done with your 3 rides and your safety quizzes, the scooter maxes out at 15 miles per hour, 15. Some of the other initiatives that we're working on as a company with community boards and communities, organizations around the Bronx is trying to encourage helmet wearing with helmet wearing instructions. We've done a lot of community events where we've given out free helmets to community members, as well as instructions on how to use it, and highly encouraging helmet use for those who are riding on our scooters. Identification and customer support with phone number information and stickers on each vehicle, making sure that people can not only download our app, but can reach us via phone line if there's an emergency. No sidewalk stickers, no sidewalk riding stickers on each vehicle. And as you can see in the image on our VS4, it'll also have that lit up bottom as well to encourage people to be good Samaritans and pick them up if they fall over. We are also have committed to consistent social media and email communications to riders. For example, on our Instagram recently, we posted about good parking methods like the images that you saw on the other slide, and we will continue to do that for our riders via our social media platforms. And again, the education mode being the first 3 rides, scoring 100% and being locked at 8 miles per hour. Some of the things that we also wanted to mention in the trends that we've seen in the Bronx, we've had over 40,000 plus rides since launch. Launch, just so everyone is aware, was August 17th. Close to 3 rides per vehicle per day since deployment. Our most popular hubs so far are the ones listed on your screen. That's pretty much it on my end. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions or feedback. Of course, wanted to put this up and leave this up if I can. Just for general inquiries or community feedback, we do have an email, hello@voride.com. Our phone number, our 800 number, VO2256. For any general inquiries, community feedback, any complaints would go also to that team. I also put my email as well if there's any questions from anyone regarding anything that I've mentioned. So happy to take your questions and take it from here.
Hi.
Can we jump in anytime, or are you gonna give us the time?
Committee members go first.
Okay. My name is Oral Selkridge. I'm on the committee. I'm just wondering, why don't we have dedicated spaces for these scooters, all the scooters, the Bird, VO, what's the other one? The third one. I forget.
Lime.
And Lime. Because like in the city in Manhattan, right? They're given a space to put the scooters away, and it looks really neat. The sidewalk looks neat. It's a nice environment. You can walk. You don't trip over anything laying down on the floor. Because I guess it's Manhattan, right? But when it comes to the Bronx, these scooters are everywhere. They're in my driveway. They're in the middle of the street. They're on corners where cars have to turn. I had to stop one time because I couldn't turn the corner, get out of my car, move the VO scooter out and put it on the sidewalk, get back into my car, and continue on my way home. That doesn't make any sense. I'm also, and the kids are riding on the sidewalk, and they lay it down. They just throw it down on the ground. And I have to pick it up to walk by on my 5 foot wide, my 8 foot wide sidewalk. I have to pick up the scooter and move it to the side. Now, I think it's a great idea to move around. It's fantastic because I like the idea of city bikes. I think it's wonderful. City bikes is a great thing. But is there a way where we can somehow find people who leave the scooters just in any area if they don't put it back in a designated slot? Like slide it in, because it's a scooter. It can slide in just like the bikes can and lock into place, whether it's VO, whether it's Lime, just slide it in and leave it there. And then if someone needs it again, they can go to that same spot, just like the city bikes, remove the scooter, the VO, they can choose. They can choose a Lime scooter, they can choose a VO scooter, they can choose any scooter they want to choose and go on and move around. Can that happen, or that's impossible to happen? Just let me know.
So obviously, the first thing that I want to mention is I I've heard a lot from community members, a lot of the concerns that you've mentioned in regards to people parking in the wrong place. The first thing that I want to just reiterate for context in this call is we're only in the Bronx at this time in phase 1 in the North Bronx. So we're not in Manhattan, for example. The second thing is the purpose of this pilot was to provide these these vehicles with the ability to park in different locations for a reason. One of the things, as we've all know, I used to live in the Bronx within the community board region as well. We all know that public transit in parts of our community is lacking. There may not be a near subway system, a subway system close by, a subway stop. The bus may be full and can't take any more passengers, and you have to keep waiting for the next bus to come. Our infrastructure may not be that great, as we all know. So part of the solution that and part of the vision of the DOT in this pilot that we share as VO is we want to be able to fill in those gaps. We want to be able to be the provider, as does Lime, as does Bird, etc., to be that option, that alternative to an Uber ride or to a Lyft ride, for example, where we heard a lot of community members come to us saying that this device saves people a lot of money because an Uber ride is getting more expensive, a Lyft ride is getting more expensive. So that's the point of this program, to try to fill in those gaps, to get people to their nearest subway stop, or when a bus is full and they have to go to work, if there's a scooter nearby, to grab it and go. Now, is the system perfect? Absolutely not. It's not going to be perfect. We live in an imperfect world. So I think what we need to do is come up with ideas on how we can address a lot of these issues. For example, one of the things that we've heard from community members was, okay, well, people were riding, for example, in other cities, not necessarily in New York, outside of certain regions or outside of certain areas. That's when our tech team came in, and with the 30-second beeping, eventually would lock a device and you'd have to go back into the designated area. So we take that feedback and we improve our product based on that feedback. Nothing is going to be perfect in terms of the parking. Someone can take a photo, for example, on our app, because when you are done with a ride, the user must take a photograph of where they parked the vehicle. We have an integrated system where it will notice where it is being parked. And if it is not parked in a specific way, then the ride cannot end. For example, if a scooter is on the ground, the ride cannot end. But that doesn't mean that the scooter can't be pushed over later on, or it can't be, with the wind pushed over later on. That we have no way of identifying, because the ride is no one's on that scooter at that time. So to answer your question, right now, of course, the corrals are there to be a place where people can park and deploy their scooters in a safe way. That's why the city made those corrals. But the city also made it possible for people to park in different areas for that precise reason that I mentioned before, to fill in those gaps. Because if we constrain people to just specific parking zones up and down, let's say, White Plains Road, well, what does that do if you live off of White Plains Road? Can you end a ride off of White Plains Road? So there are restrictions when it comes to those types of parking that you see, for example, on a city bike, if that makes sense.
Okay, it kind of does, but most of the time when I'm seeing the scooters, right, they're very near bus stops, very close to bus stops, very close to a connection to some type of transportation. So the parking spaces, the parking corrals can go there. Most people, if they're going somewhere, right now in the Bronx get off on the bus. They take a train, jump in the bus, get to a stop, get off that stop, and walk home. Usually it's in walking distance to go home. So every single block in the Bronx has a location where you can get to a bus stop very easily within 10 minutes. I mean, I don't know, maybe it may be in the country club, but still country club doesn't have a lot of e-scooters in that area because most people drive and get around somehow. They ride the bikes, whatever it is. So I think that what I'm seeing, and you have to do a survey yourself, look to see where a lot of scooters are being left. They're being left near bus stops, which is fine, but they're being left near bus stops in front of people's homes, in their driveway, on the corner where they caught a bus. They left it right there in the corner, jumped off the e-scooter, and then jumped on the bus or walked home, whatever they needed to do. But they didn't put it into a corral, into an area where they can be neatly, just like Manhattan, neatly put away, so our streets and our corners and our sidewalks look neat like Manhattan. I think that the Bronx is picked on again, and I think that it's unfortunate that you can't develop some way of being able to park. And look at the survey. Look at where these e-scooters and these VO scooters and the Lime scooters are being left. And being left very near bus stops. They are. I mean, some are further into the block because fine, they drove it further into block, but they can walk. I mean, they can drop it by the bus and walk a block to get into their house or get to where they're going to. So I think it's doable, but there has to be a way to minimize this stuff. I know you're saying you're trying to fill a gap, but it's bananas. This gap that you're trying to fill is bananas now. It's bananas. Everywhere you see a scooter, in front of my house, one of my friend's house, on the street, laying down.
Oral, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Anyway,
Oral, what
sorry, go
exactly
ahead.
is your question? Because I think you got the brunt of it. If you continue like this, it's going to be New Year's. What is the question?
Fine, Chris. That's it. Chris, that's enough. That's enough. Thank you, Chris.
This,
Yeah, because we
thank
have other
you.
people also that you want to ask some questions.
Thank you, Chris. I got it.
Okay. Anybody else from the committee, please?
Yes, I was wondering if there's any way you could sort of make a designated corral over by Jacoby, because there's a house at the corner of Pelham Parkway South and Wilson Avenue that if you go by there at 9 a.m., you'll see about 20 scooters parked in front of this poor guy's house. Is there any way you can make a corral across the street over by Jacoby and have the scooters parked there? Because this poor guy, his whole property is totally littered with the scooters.
We're happy to communicate that to the DOT. The DOT, just for clarification, are the ones that make the corrals. They're the ones that decided where the corrals go. But we're happy to communicate your idea of where a corral should go with the DOT. So if you'd like, after this call, just if you want, send me a quick email with exactly where this location would be or where the problem is, and I'm happy to follow up with you on that.
Mr. Leon, by the way, we have a representation from the Bronx DOT with us. It's Miss Darisa. Darisa, you're present, right? You're listening to everything what we're talking about. Darisa? Hello? Darisa?
Hey, Chris, it's Keith Kalb. We're here.
Oh, Keith. Okay, beautiful. So at least you're hearing what we're asking about it.
Yeah, and so just to
I
back up
I
a little
believe you
bit.
guys have an open channel communication between this pilot program
Of
and
course.
DOT,
Of course.
in which they can bring you all this.
Yes, and so just so that just so that everybody understands, this is a 2-year pilot program, right? So all the information that you provide to everybody, to VO, to Lime, to Bird, to the Department of Transportation, we are gathering all that information, all the feedback, all the inquiries, all of the issues. We need to identify those things in order to assess whether this is a program that we would expand throughout the city. So, and the parking corrals are just one of the 2 models for parking these multimodal vehicles around the city. And so the idea is that we are going to study it and see whether the corral option is the best for any potential future programs, or if the free parking is the better model. We don't know that yet. This is the first e-scooter rideshare system in New York City, and so it's a test to see how it works.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying a corral like city bike, but like the painting areas that you've put in Westchester Square and some other areas. I was wondering if you could do a painting area at least over by Jacoby, so that because people think that I'm so anti-scooter. I'm not really anti-scooter, but if these doctors and nurses and whoever that are going to Jacoby I see utilizing them, like I said, there's about 20 plus scooters on that particular corner at the person's house. If they
Debbie,
just put it across the street.
Yes, Debbie, as you're right. We've noted the location. We've already been in touch with Jacoby about additional corral locations. We've been in touch with other major stakeholders throughout the Bronx about expanding other corrals, but we're not announcing anything today. Okay? Thank you, though, for the feedback, Debbie. We are aware of those issues, and we'll take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the board members? Okay, it's open to the public. Any questions from the public, please?
Gene DeFrancis from Allerton Merchants.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Chris. Keith, can you clarify what a furniture zone is for future presentations? Because to my knowledge, they're commercial corridors and not residential. You can't, for instance, park a bike rack or a bench on a residential area, but you can do so on a commercial. The bikes, John, and thank you for joining us today. They look great when they're corralled. My concern is we have, and I wasn't too clear on what the penalties were. You said that they're not allowed to lock out. What is that? Is that working as a deterrent, and how much? Because we're right on the border where the pilot program ends, which seems to be from your map, Bronx Park East. The 30 seconds out is right by our river. And we have a basic water graveyard of the bikes, because it seems from your presentation, what I'm hearing is that the 30 seconds, the bike shuts down and the people are leaving it. So if there's a GPS signal, or if we have a wider base on the bikes that can present a number where you can identify the rider, I think that could clarify that also once the pilot program ends. And they are allowed. There will not be as many bikes by the ball field and on the bridge, which is already a one narrow lane. So people with disabilities are having a hard time crossing. This is the Southern Boulevard roundabout that I'm talking about, for those that are not following. But it's very difficult to pass by because we have about 12 bikes on that bridge on any given day. And finally, how fast is the company's response to bikes and scooters that need a charge or need to be removed or picked out of the river? I think the program can work. The speeding and the kids are a huge concern for our community riding the bike. There seems to be 3 or 4 sometimes people riding the bike at a time. And when they pass, we have the red light cameras, but I don't know how they're identified or who gets the ticket or how there's a deterrent for them just speeding past the lights. If you can help guide through that, I basically how you identify them and what that penalty is from what you spoke about earlier when you said that they're not able to close out. I just seen some litigation problems with that running up someone's credit card, even if it is, and if there's fraud going on with their credit card, seeing that there's kids on the bikes that are not of age to use them.
Yeah. So, obviously those are great questions and concerns that we've heard as well, especially specifically around the double riding and the underage riding as well. One of the things that I just want to mention that I forgot to mention before was a little bit about what our policy is if you violate any of these things. So if you're caught double riding, how could you get caught, for example? So if someone sees someone double riding and gets off and runs to the 6 train or the 5 train, what we would do is if someone wants to take the information of the scooter and report it to our line that you see here on the screen, that's one way to identify the last rider.
Where is that number, John?
Right here on the screen, 1-800-VO2256.
Oh, your number. Okay, I thought you meant the number on a bike. Gotcha.
No, just that number. But the identification number for the scooter itself, you'll be able to find it right above the QR code in between the handles.
How
So
long
the-
is that number?
That number can be about, I think it's 8 digits.
Okay.
So it's literally the only number that's more than one number above the QR code on the scooter itself.
My
That's the only
recommendation for
That's only for VO. Yes, good point. That is only for VO. Lime and Bird have different ways of identifying their scooters, and I am not an expert on that. For VO scooters only, they will be on the QR code on the scooter in between the handles of the scooter, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you. My solution to one of that is maybe a thicker handlebar base with a 3 or 4 digit number, almost like a license plate,
Mhm.
so we can identify it a little bit clearer from a distance. I think we could curb and keep these bikes in the neighborhood so people can, because it does have its pros and cons. The cons concern us as far as safety. But if they're riding on the sidewalk, we can curb that with an ID number from afar. If they're running red lights or going the wrong way on the streets, this way we could keep the program and make it a success.
Yeah,
That would be
no,
my recommendation.
that's some really good feedback that I'll take to our tech team as well. I think the one thing also, just to follow up what I was just saying before, when if someone catches someone double riding, or if someone does not look like or say that they are not 18 and over, if the Good Samaritan would just report that to our number, with the identification of the scooter on the number of the scooter, our team can see who is the last person that rode it. And then under the investigation of our team, they will face an immediate ban from our app. So that's one way that we're trying to make sure that we're being responsive to it. The other thing is the other infractions, such as someone, go riding the wrong way on traffic, etc. Those infractions are with a warning. They go back to education mode, which is the mode that I mentioned before. Your first 3 rides are in education mode and locked to a specific miles per hour. You go back to that mode. You have to redo all of those steps before you can ride again. And then the length of the suspensions also vary. Some of them, for example, can be a few days. Some of them can be a few weeks. It really just depends on the infraction and what our team finds.
But it's not monetary.
The infractions right now are not monetary, from my understanding, and if anything changes or anything in that nature evolves over time, I'll be happy to share that with the community board or anyone that's interested.
And so if they run a red light, there's basically no penalty.
If they run a red light, for example, right now, because obviously these devices do not have license plates, there's no way to identify a red light in our system, for example. So as of right now, there is no immediate solution that I can offer on this call. Obviously, that's going to be something that we all look at as part of this pilot program, just to see exactly what needs to be done to curb those types of things from happening. And of course, we'll be working with the DOT and the other scooter companies to ensure that we tackle that throughout the pilot process.
John, I really think we can make this work if we have a visible ID number from 30 yards away. Because even your recommendation on getting that number, if they're riding down the street, most of us won't be able to get that number because they'll pass right by us. But I think
and that's an
I
excellent
think a
point.
lot of us will be more comfortable with a larger number, and I know I can get on board personally, and I think most of the residents I speak to will be a lot more at ease that they can identify someone's riding on a sidewalk close to the entrance of one of the business establishments, or running red lights and all the other infractions that we spoke about. I think we can really, and hopefully DOT can relay this to Lime and Bird as well, because it is serious. It is a lot of people are staying indoors, not a lot, but too many are staying indoors because they're concerned of the bikes there.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a residential area where there's not enough space, and a bike comes 20 miles down the street. They're getting a little bit concerned.
Yeah, no, and that again, that's great feedback that I'll definitely take to our team. Again, our scooters have evolved into what they are today with a lot of the safety things that we have on them because of this type of community feedback. So I will definitely take this back to our tech team. Just to follow up, Gene, on your second part of your question, how do we know when a scooter needs to get battery charged, etc.?
How
So
fast is your response, more accurately?
yeah, so I one of the things that our team does is when you're on the actual scooter, you'll see a monitor for the actual battery power and things like that. There's also a mechanism on the device where we can actually see where they are in real time, or just semi-real time. So for example, when a battery is low, it'll actually ping our operations team. Our operations team can then open up their own admin app of the VO app, see where the device is, and bring with the van some charged batteries to swap out the batteries. We do not plug these things on the wall. We introduced the swappable battery upon our launch as well. And we're very proud of doing that. It's much more friendly to the environment at the same time, just to swap out the batteries rather than corralling everything into a van and then going to plug it in at a wall at a warehouse. So that's one of the things that we do. The second thing also is when these scooters are out of the zone that is currently allowed in the DOT pilot, as I mentioned, it'll start beeping 30 seconds. After that, it'll lock. Part of the terms and services of agreement is that you agree to riding within the zone. You'll have a 30-second warning with a audible sound that'll let you know that you're getting out of the zone. And if you open the VO app, you can also see that you're getting out of the zone as well. Then that you have that time to return back to the designated area. There are those who may leave it outside of the zone. Our team will be pinged on the admin side, and our vans will go and pick up the VO scooter from that area and return it back into the designated zone for the pilot program.
And John, if I may, for both scenarios, that's within a 24-hour period or 12-hour period or longer?
In terms of the
swapping out the battery, or if there's a bike that's thrown into the river, and to fish it out, what's the process? How long?
Yep. So the process for it, the turnaround process can vary. Obviously, it depends on staffing, it depends on scheduling, etc. But it is pretty much, so far from our ops team, it is about a 36 hour time window, just to kind of see exactly where we can swap up the battery or pick up one that may be in the river, as you've mentioned. Obviously, as we continue to grow our team, those response times will get better. But right now, that's somewhat what I was given information about for response times in that.
My final recommendation, if there's some sort of incentive for passerbyers, maybe a free hour or something, where if you help us get a bike corralled properly and take a picture, I don't know honestly how you could manufacture that, but the solution to incentivizing pedestrians passing by to put the bike in a corralled space and report it to the app, I think would also be a boon to the project. But thank you, John, for your time. Your answers were greatly helpful, and thank you to the community board.
Okay, next.
Hello, Roxanne
question.
Delgado, can I speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you. This is Roxanne Delgado on behalf of Friends of Pelham Parkway. I'm not so surprised that Pelham Parkway, Norton Wallace, and Gun Hill are one of your hotspots, because I have to say, VO has been one of the bad players in this launch program. On the first day, where you label as community events, it's more as marketing events. You targeted the two NYCHA houses, Pelham Parkway houses and Gun Hill houses, and you actually gave those minors, and they were minors, believe me. They didn't even look like they were older than 15 years old. And that first day, on your launch day, there were a whole bunch of them riding these your e-scooters, because you gave them those $5 a month free coupons. And it was just about getting the numbers. And it's very distressing to me that how they target NYCHA, because we're very involved with the NYCHA kids when it comes to cleaning the parkway or planting things or caring for the community, because a lot of these children don't get supervised as they should be, and they already have health issues, and now you're giving this e-scooters where they don't have to move at all. Instead, we need them to be healthier, like city bikes will have encourage activity. These kids are riding these wheels only for enjoyment. They're not using it to go somewhere or to go or for any destination. They're just joyriding it every night or every morning. And unfortunately, they're doing it on sidewalks. And after they're done, and when you say you do collection within a 36-hour, that is not accurate, because when you first launched the program, you had lots of employees and you were collecting those e-scooters within the orange zones. But just a few weeks ago, I see those same scooters in the same spot for days. And that's longer than 36 hours. You're not collecting them because I guess you're trying to save, cut your expenses or your overhead, which is unfair to the community. And regarding equity, this is a lack of equity, because now that this pilot program is in our community in the northeast side or Palm Parkway, we will deploy city bikes, which is less expensive as well as healthier and encourages, it's much greener and safer because it has a safe track record, as opposed to e-scooters, where it was just reported just last year there was over 600 incidents involving e-scooters. This was reported in the paper, in the local news, 600 incidents last year involving e-scooters. So that shows how e-scooters are not safe. And from my understanding, and I just want to say, again, I'm very disappointed how this pilot, this video continues targeting the NYCHA kids, because I think this is only to encourage them to be less active, less healthier, less safer, to encourage them to do more joyriding as opposed to city bike that will have provided to be more healthier, and encourage them to use a greener alternative transportation as opposed to the VO, the e-scooters. And regarding the wind is not blowing e-scooters in the middle of people's driveways or the crosswalks or on the green space. That's ridiculous to say blame the wind. E-scooters are left alone as the rider times out. I've seen it. They run out of time or the battery for some reason dies and they leave it where it ends. They're not going to drag it back to the corral if it's within the orange zone, or drag it to the nearest area that's furniture zone. They're going to leave it where it stops. So this notion that people are the wind is blowing it or someone else is dragging them elsewhere after the ride ends, I think it's ridiculous and it's not true. And I'm very disappointed with all the players. Rio has been the worst because you actually targeted the young ones and mostly NYCHA residents. I think you want to get the ridership up, but you're not making money. I mean, that's why you're cutting your expenses regarding not collecting the e-scooters on a timely basis. But I feel like you should be more less focused on making money and more helping the community. If you got this, and this pilot program, from my understanding, may last 2 years, but the DOT has to provide a report to City Council within a year to see how, and we have lots of problems. Hopefully DOT will be more adamant in addressing these concerns, because not only do we have these e-scooters on sidewalks, but now that they're allowed to ride on the greenway, this has opened a Pandora box. So we have everything on two wheels that's on the greenway. We have dirt bikes, ATVs, we have motorcycles, because now that people see these e-scooters, like, okay, they could ride here, so why can't we? And unfortunately, this has put safety issues on pedestrians, including seniors, children, disabled. And I did not exaggerate, because my neighbor's father just recently got spooked by an e-scooter, because the e-scooter was so close to him, and he fell. And his son took him to the hospital because he was all bruised up. No, he did not get hit by a scooter, but it rode so closely next to him in the greenway that he just got startled and fell. So I just wish honestly, I wish this program ends sooner than later, but hopefully DOT will resolve some of the issues that I brought up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Anybody
Roxanne.
else?
This
Hi.
is just Carol Antunes on the VO team. I appreciate your feedback. Just wanted to provide some more color on that 36-hour period. So it really depends on like the battery level of each independent scooter. So in some areas, if the scooter is not getting like multiple rides per day, and that battery may last longer, like they do have a pretty long range, over 40 miles of range, so they don't need to be swapped every day or multiple times a day, which is why you might see certain locations where like those batteries are not swapped as often as other areas where maybe the scooters are getting more use. So just wanted to clarify that. But thank you, Roxanne, for for the
But thank you for that. But I also meant the
inside.
collection of the e-scooters within the orange zone. We have corrals, but the corrals are not being utilized frequently since the collection is not done as it used to be during launch day. I think it was done within 36 hours. Now it seems like it's 72 hours before these e-scooters are collected and returned to the corrals within the orange zone. And again, I really wish you stopped marketing to the NYCHA minors, because I think that's awful. Because of all the providers, it's VIO that's being used by NYCHA, Pelham Parkway Houses, and Gun Hill, and they're used mostly by minors. And I think that the fact that these poor kids don't have the supervision by their families, and they don't have the mentorship that's needed, I think you're taking advantage of these kids. And it offends me because we are very involved with Pelham Parkway residents and their kids, and we try to teach them to be healthier, to eat healthier, to care for the parkway, to clean. And now we see this scooter that's actually undermining our efforts on behalf of these poor kids. That's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just if I can have a moment, I totally hear you. I think right now we're in a pilot phase. The great thing about a pilot is that you can test out multiple things and see what works and what doesn't work. So like what we have right now is kind of a hybrid system where we do have corrals, but you're not limited to only parking in corrals. It's a free floating and corral system. So I think all of the feedback that we're getting, this is all really helpful to us as we figure it out. Again, like we've been around for under 2 months, so it's fairly new. I think folks are just getting used to it. So that's really great feedback. Just on the underage use of VIO, like that's definitely not something that we are encouraging as a company. Like you must be 18 years old to ride. You have to go through the sign up flow. Even if, let's say, some kids got a hold of those like discount codes, once they actually try and go to make the account, that's when kind of they would be prevented from going further into the account creation. So just wanted to flag that for everyone here.
At night, after 5 p.m., come to Pelham Park Houses, you see a whole bunch of kids on these VOs, and I can guarantee you they're not even 15 or 16 years old. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Anybody else from the public, please?
My name is Luke Sabados, and I have a couple questions. One is, I use the scooters and I really like them as a way to get around, especially places where, the bus might get to, but it might take quite twice as long or something. One question that I had, though, was access. So, you encourage access to all this program as a way to access, mobility in transit deserts, and you have the access program. However, I noticed that VIO differs from Bird and Lime in that you don't give access to Edenwald. 229th Street is completely blocked off. Bird and Lime do not do this, and I'm really kind of concerned because this program, as it's designed, can fill transit gaps, and I'd really like you to reconsider and look at 229th Street around Edenwald and improve access to that road specifically. I've got a couple other questions, but I'd wonder if you could respond to that one.
Yeah, so as a former resident of Bruner Avenue in 229, I'm fully aware of the area that you're talking about. What I have been told from our ops team is that we did have a few incidents towards the launch, at the launch time at Edenwald Houses that concerned us. And it wasn't just us, it was a few operators who expressed the same concern. I think from my understanding, we're still trying to figure out a solution for to avoid what happened with the VIO scooters specifically at Edenwald Housing. But it's of course something that we do want to address, and we do want to make sure that people have access to. I just also want to mention with the VIO access plan, which are for people that qualify, would be those who get some type of city support, such as NYCHA residents or SNAP benefits. We're not the only ones that have that type of plan. Lime and Bird also do have those plans as well, for those who live in NYCHA and for those who get government assistance. So as of right now, I don't have a definitive answer as to the time frame for it being relooked at or seeing when we can lift the no ride zone on our app. But I'd be happy to look into it and provide an update to the community board, who can present it to the public in regards to when this can be addressed. Because I do also, as a former resident, do agree that it is something that it would be very beneficial to everyone in the community. So I will definitely look into that for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And I don't know the nature of the incident that you're referring to, but I'd urge you to consider instituting a slow zone if that's something that you could consider. What else? When is the expansion to the Southeast Bronx planning on being implemented? Do you know?
Is the DOT person still on the call? Because I would defer to him for that.
Hey, Keith Kalb again. That has not been. We have not announced the date yet.
Okay, thanks. And I'd like to second Jean's suggestion on instituting some kind of program around bike angels, like similar to Bike Angels, like the City Bike has, where you create incentive for moving specific scooters or bikes from one area to another area, and so I'd urge DOT and VO and the other operators to consider a program similar to that. I'm also experiencing a lot of challenges with the geo mapping features, and sometimes I don't know if it's my phone. I'm assuming it probably is, but maybe it's my geolocation in my phone. But sometimes I'll be riding, and I don't know if it's exactly with VO, but with some of the other ones, where suddenly, I will have entered a no ride zone or a slow zone, and all of a sudden the scooter turns off, and it's kind of confusing, and I have to figure out what's going on. So if there's a way in which that those geozones can be a little less restrictive, or just have a buffer area, or be buffered by slow zones or something, that might help with some of the automatic shut-offs that people are experiencing.
I'm happy to look into that for you and try to provide a response as well to the community board to provide to the community and the public.
Okay, anybody else from the public, please?
One last point I'd like to make.
Sabados, you had enough. Can we pass it to somebody else, please?
Hi, yes, this is Diana Finch from the Bronx Park East Community Association, and some feedback from our membership. People do ride the scooters for fun. They are fun to ride, so it's not always commuting. Although I do have a neighbor who works for the MTA, and he has to park in the MTA parking lot, but sometimes he ends up at the end of his shift far from his parking lot, so he loves having the e-scooter to ride back to the parking lot. A lot of people still want to try this e-scooters and haven't tried them yet. We would like more trainings on riding, because there really are a lot of people who haven't, they're a little hesitant to try all by themselves, but they really do want to try out the e-scooters. So if you could have more of those. We were also wondering if all the e-scooter companies could do something like having a refresher training course, a mandated refresher training that you have to take in the app, because really the trainings in the apps are a lot more minimal than I had thought they were going to be from how they were described before the program started. And I think it would be a very good idea to have a mandated refresher course, things like not riding on the sidewalk. We've noticed that some of the corrals are in places where it's hard to ride the e-scooters. They're right on busy, heavily trafficked roads like Boston Road. And it's very intimidating to think of getting on an e-scooter and plunging right into heavy traffic. We need more bike lanes, and the overwhelming reason people ride on the sidewalks is that they feel it's safer. There's also still a lot of confusion about the greenways and the pathways in the parks. Can you ride the e-scooters on them or can you not? And for VO in particular, do you need a driver's license to ride them or not? So that's my feedback and my questions.
Sure. Thank you for that, Diana.
And one
So
more thing, sorry.
go right ahead.
The bells, they all have bells in the handlebars, but a lot of pedestrians complain that the thing they hate about the e-scooters is that they come up on them so silently. So if the trainings and the refresher trainings could emphasize the bells, like a lot of people who've ridden the e-scooters don't even realize there's a bell there, let alone thinking about using it.
Right. So that's a great piece of feedback as well. We are looking into an alternative to that, so I can't really announce anything at this time, but it is something that our team is working on, especially for our VS4 Astro that will be coming online soon here in New York City. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, two things. One, on October 16th, we're actually doing, and we're dedicating the whole day of October 16th to safety and providing safety information for community members. So we've teamed up with a few local businesses up in the Edenwald area to provide information on safe riding, safe parking practices, helmet giveaways, and demonstrations on how to safely use the scooters, as well as having a table at a local park nearby to also provide safety guidance and information to folks, as well as to provide even more helmets to people who are riding as we see them go by or anything like that. To let you also know, you're not allowed to ride a scooter in a public park on any of those walkways. So that is something that is prohibited. The other thing that we're working on for safety is we're working on additional materials like videos within our app or online on our website for additional training purposes to continue to push that for our riders to continue to get refreshes of the safety and the rules that are required for using these vehicles. Obviously, our team is working really hard on getting that online. And once, of course, it is ready for online action, we will, of course, let the public know when it is available. But those are all the things that we are working on in terms of making sure that folks understand the rules of how to use these scooters and to continue to educate them as the pilot continues and to provide the feedback that you just mentioned, for example, regarding just the bells and also being maybe a little too quiet for many folks, maybe not hearing them, all valid and feedback that we are definitely working on as we speak to provide a solution for that. So.
Oh, and one thing I forgot, the kickstands are a little tricky. And I think a lot of people don't really know how to use them, or it's hard for them to use them. And the training, none of the trainings really show you exactly how to use the kickstand. You need a video of a person doing it. And I think that's why so many are falling over, because people can't quite get the kickstand to work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and that's for everyone, not just VO.
I've heard that feedback from community members as well. It is something that has gone through our production pipeline to see how we can improve the kickstand over time. But you are right, that has been a lot of feedback that I've been hearing from community members as to, for example, there was a rider once who stopped me because I had my VO shirt on, who mentioned to me that they thought that they had parked it the right way. And then as soon as they were starting to walk away, it looks like they didn't activate the kickstand well enough and it fell over. They were good riders and good Samaritans and went back and did it the correct way. But it is something that we are definitely receiving feedback on it, and we'll look into improving for future iterations of our scooters. In the meantime, creating the materials on how to park correctly, which would include how to properly use the kickstand, will be part of the materials that we are putting together for our app and website for the future.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Michael Cass here.
Yes.
So I'm an active user of the shared e-scooter program. I love it. It's transformative. Nothing is cooler than riding up to my house in an e-scooter. Now, I've ridden a lot of Lime, ridden a lot of Bird, but I haven't quite ridden the Vio yet because, the sit-down scooter is a little too similar to riding a bicycle. So that's why I'm very happy that you mentioned about the Astro standing scooters. I've been waiting for those to come out because I read in the Bronx Times that Vio only has 600 scooters deployed out of the 1,000 they're allowed. So I would really like to see the remaining 400 deployed as the standing scooters, and I'm looking forward to seeing them out in the wild. Now, this next question is more for DOT. I had mentioned this to Navardo. In particular, there's one no-ride zone that I believe is a little bit too expansive. It's on Westchester Avenue, where it crosses the Hutchinson River Parkway. That no-ride zone extends into the avenue. So even though you intend to stay inside the Phase 1 area, there's a brief moment where you're outside that area. And I don't know about Vio, but at least with Lime, every time the motor has cut out when I'm crossing that quite busy intersection. So I believe these boundaries are set by DOT. They seem to be identical across all the apps. So it would be good if that boundary could be adjusted.
Michael, could you clarify exactly what you told the borough commissioner?
I basically showed him where you have a no-ride zone that is extending into Westchester Avenue, right where the Hutchinson River Parkway is.
Okay. On the Parkway or on Westchester Avenue?
On Westchester Avenue itself.
So when you're traveling north or south on Westchester, or east and west really, it travels, it's cutting off as you approach the Hutchinson River Parkway?
Just as right after I cross it, when you're getting close to Middletown Road.
Okay.
Are you talking about that construction zone there?
Yeah, that area. When I'm on the north side of the bridge, I seem to be okay, but when I'm crossing on the south side, it seems close enough to that no-ride zone that every time I cross it, motor cuts out. I gotta scoot it manually across the intersection until I'm back into the Phase 1 area.
Okay, we'll take a look at it.
Okay, I can follow up in an email.
That would actually be very helpful.
And lastly, so what,
Okay.
if I may.
Thank you. Anybody else, please?
I just want to say that these e-scooters are making our community much fatter and unhealthier. That's all.
I'm going to be the last person. The only thing I can ask about it is with winter approaching and understandably snow's going to start and everything else. What's going to happen with these e-scooters? Are they still going to be around? Because don't forget, when the city start plowing, they might be covered with stacks of snow on top of it. And by the time the guy's going to go and get them, who knows what's going to happen? Just wanted to know that.
Chris, can I have one question? Chris, can I ask?
This is Carol on the winter question. The great thing about a pilot is that we can kind of see what ridership is like in the winter. I think that we think ridership will go down and that it might not be as popular, but we don't know that for a fact. So I think we're going to be looking to see what the trends are, and then we can kind of adjust accordingly. We have a local warehouse, so I think we're not, fearful that these will be out on the street and kind of left abandoned. Like, we have full-time employees, a local warehouse where we can house these if we see that the demand is just not there during the winter times. But we haven't quite crossed that bridge yet.
Yes. So all three companies, we worked very closely with them when Hurricane Henri and the other one I think was Ida. Hurricane Ida. We asked all three companies when that storm was approaching the city to cut service and to take the vehicles off the street. And they did that. They complied with our request to do that, and we worked very closely to get them the service back up and running as soon as we felt conditions allowed. So that, I think, is going to be the plan for severe weather storm instances that will happen over the winter. But we would anticipate if there's no storm activity and high winds or anything like that, that these would still operate on the city street, as long as there's no severe threat of a major storm that's going to hit the city that could affect, like you guys know, plowing, sidewalk, maintenance and things like that. But, we will monitor that and work very closely with the companies to make sure that that does not become an issue.
Thank you, Keith.
Quick question.
I know you're saying that they were asked. I know you were saying that they were asked to take them off during the past two hurricane storms, but I only saw that they were turned off. I still saw the scooters within the neighborhood sitting out in the elements. So they were not removed from the street, but they were turned off so they would not be able to use.
Thanks for the clarification, Debbie.
Oh,
Anyway, quick question. Anyway that well, technology-wise, can you think about maybe putting just to keep these scooters off the sidewalk, a vertical camera at the base of the camera, of the scooters, so you can see legs and people walking somehow, where you can tell if someone is riding it on the sidewalk versus riding it on the street. Because that's one of my biggest problems, because many people are riding it on the sidewalk, and I know it's because of lack of bike lanes, whatever, but it's pretty much of a hazardous for kids with mothers with strollers and kids walking on the street. Is there a way to put a camera like just at the base of it that looks out horizontally, so if you see legs and people walking, they're on the sidewalk versus on the street? That's my ask about for technology anyway.
For sure. I mean, obviously, I'm not a tech guy that works in our tech department, so I don't necessarily know how that would work per se. All I do know is that we are working on a sidewalk solution that goes beyond what is already on the scooter. So we will have an announcement to make soon. I cannot share that right now per se, but these are the types of things that we are looking into, and we'll be able to announce that shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Thank you, Ms. Antunes. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everybody, the public. Rabbi.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you for having us.
I'm still here.
Go ahead. Rabbi, go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody that showed up tonight. We spoke about a lot of good things, and hopefully we'll all work together to make the scooter program great, the bridge program great, and hopefully these little issues or big issues will get cleared up, and we'll have a healthy winter for everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you for coming, everybody. Be blessed, be happy, be safe. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, the meeting finished at 9:48 p.m., 9:50. Have a good evening,
So there was
everybody.
no old business or new business?